Hello, Taurus friends. Up today is your November 2025 Tarot and Numerology reading, plus a detailed Vedic astrology forecast, including the November 5th full moon and the November 19th new moon. So Taurus, you have, I'm just looking at your charts here, Taurus, you have a lot of activation in your seventh house of partnerships this month, especially going into the latter part of November. So we will have a look at what November holds for you, especially with regards for your partnerships and relationships. We'll get into that a little bit later. We're going to start with the Tarot. And if you are new to Vedic Sidereal Astrology, a quick and easy way to know your Vedic Sun Sign is Taurus. If your birthday is from May 15th to June 14th, you are a Taurus Sun Sign as per Vedic Sidereal Astrology. Now, if you're coming from Western Tropical Astrology, that may seem a little bit weird at first, but give it a try. These are accurate real-time positions of the planets and the stars, and you may find that this accurate real-time data gives accurate predictions for your planetary transits. If you're new here, welcome to Anastasia Tarot and Vedic Astrology channel, where I help you navigate the cosmic currents and surf the planetary wavelengths with more ease and grace. This November 2025 Tarot and Astrology horoscope is for Taurus rising, Taurus moon, and Taurus sun. We're going to start with your Tarot and Numerology, then we're going to get into detailed astrological transits, and the chapters are time-stamped in the description below if you like to skip ahead. And of course, with all collective readings, take what aligns and leave the rest behind. And now let's get into your tarot. Okay, Taurus, I have pulled 6 cards for you. And the first thing that's jumping out at me is we have this King of Swords and King of Cups. So for some Taurians, there are going to be 2 men involved in your situation. Now, Taurus, I'm looking over at your astrological charts, and you do have a lot of 7th house activation. That is the house of, love, relationships, also business partnerships. And in the beginning of the month, you have Mars and Mercury are activating your 7th house, and then getting into the end of the month, you're, by November 19th, a lot of activation with several planets there and the new moon happening. So you could be having to set boundaries, Taurus, if this is a man in your life. You could be having some difficulties with this man, but this can also be you, Taurus, and, male or female Taurus, however you identify. King of Swords sets boundaries, and you do have a very strong, Mars is in its own sign of Scorpio in your 7th house. So you may find, Taurus, that this month, especially the beginning of the month, you may have to be the King of Swords and set some boundaries when it when it comes to your relationships. And of course, Taurus, please try to do this in a kind and loving way. And then for some Taurians, this could be a man that's causing you some difficulty in the beginning of the month, not so much in the end of the month, but in the beginning of the month, your 6th house is activated. So for some Taurians, this could actually be, some kind of legal dealings that you're having with someone, maybe legal negotiations, things of that nature, contracts, legal paperwork, things of that nature. Again, not all Taurians, but with this 6th house activation and this King of Swords, that's going to be for some Taurians. Now, this King of Cups. So Taurus, with your seventh house activation, especially in the latter part of November. For some Taurians, this is going to be a new love interest coming in with this King of Cups. It can be quite nice if you're looking for love. Who doesn't want to meet a King of Cups if you're looking for love? So for Taurians looking for love with this seventh house activation, this could definitely be a new interest, new love interest coming in for you. Now, in the past, or what to let go of, Three of Coins, this is it's a good positive card, but Taurus, you may find that you have to let go of some of your plans and, wanting things to just, work out in a planned way where, this happens and this happens and this happens. And then especially, for some of us who are getting together with, friends and family, perhaps in the latter part of the month for, holidays, you may find, Taurus, that you're having to leave behind some of your plans or just let go of some of your planning. And then going into the future, a lot of activity happening. And then again, with this activation of your seventh house, could be a lot of social activity, emails, texts, social posts, things of that nature. And you have this really lovely, lovely Two of Cups appearing here. So again, for Taurians who are looking for love, quite a nice card to see, especially with that King of Cups, who, we talked about could be a possible new love interest for some Taurians. And even with working with this King of Swords, Taurus, if you are having some difficult, negotiations with someone in your life, again, whether they're legal or whether this is a man in your personal life, Two of Cups really reminds you, really look for the partnership, look for the negotiation that's going to lead to coming to terms. So even if you're, having to set some boundaries with this King of Swords, or, having some difficulties with this man, still keep this very loving Two of Cups idea foremost in your mind of coming to terms. And so that's speaking about this Two of Cups in a general way. And again, in a romantic way, really lovely card, and it's working with the King of Cups. Now, this Chariot card is appearing as what to avoid, Taurus. So this is advice from the cards, what to avoid. Chariot can very much, it's a benefic card, it's a good card, but it can be very much taking this sort of my way or the highway sort of attitude. And I feel like this Chariot as what to avoid is kind of working with this Three of Coins here that's, in the past, what's going. So you could have to let go of some of your ideas you're really clinging on to, Taurus, open up a little to some negotiation. And if really clinging to what you have planned isn't working, then, let it go. Look for another path. And the numerology, when we add up the 3 plus 7 plus 8 plus 2, and we're not including the kings in this numerology, we're only adding up the numbers. Those numbers together equal 20, and 20 is the Judgment card. So numerologically speaking, this Judgment card really supports following your intuition, and again, be willing to make some radical changes, Taurus. I know, right? You're Taurus, you're a fixed earth sign. You like to hold on to things, and maybe you really want to hold on to your plans. But Judgment invites you to open up to, really be willing to make a change. And it may be a pretty radical change. And, for Taurians with a new love interest coming in, right, that can shake up our lives. And then in the beginning part of the month, Taurus, you do have a 6th house activation with Venus and Sun are in your 6th house. So this is, Judgment card can be a health-oriented card, so follow your intuition when it comes to your health. And just, if anyone's giving you good health advice about making some lifestyle changes or things like that, this card very much supports that willingness to make some positive lifestyle changes that are going to support your health and your daily schedule as supporting work-life balance. Okay, Taurus, all in all, really nice energy with this reading. And, these quite lovely cards for Taurians who are looking for love. There may be a King of Cups, and so potentially this could be a water sign person. But then generally speaking, this Two of Cups and King of Cups together can show a new love interest coming in for you, Taurus. And then as far as your King of Swords, this could be an air sign person, but it could also just be, someone with whom you're having some kind of, legal dealings or need to set boundaries. And again, the cards really encourage, if you're setting boundaries, look for this Two of Cups solution where it's a win-win. And, you may have to give up some of your plans or, some of what you think is coming. But really, when dealing with this King of Swords, of course, maintain your boundaries, Taurus, but do look for that win-win solution that we see here with the Two of Cups. Up next is your Vedic Astrology horoscope, where we go house by house, planet by planet. If you enjoyed this video, please do like and subscribe. Hello, Taurus friends, and welcome to your horoscope for November 2025. Taurus, November is a mixed month for you. You've got some really powerful asterisms going on, but they are mixed in their effect. So we will get into that later. And if you are new to Vedic astrology, a quick and easy way to know your Vedic Sidereal Sun Sign is if your birthday falls from May 15th to June 14th, you have Taurus Sun. So that being said, this horoscope is for Taurus rising, Taurus moon, and Taurus sun signs as per Vedic Sidereal Astrology. Okay, Taurus, so we're going to start looking at the 5th November full moon, and then we'll get into the 19th November new moon, so you can get a feeling for how the whole month will unfold for you. One thing you've got going on is with Mars has moved into Scorpio. He is in his strength. Mars loves being in Scorpio. That's his home. And Mars in 7th house Scorpio makes a Ruchaka yoga. So this is quite a good yoga for you, Taurus, in terms of your personal vitality, your personal strength. Mars is the warrior planet, so this is definitely going to help you, maintain your boundaries if that's a thing you need to do. Now, this is a mixed bag because the Ruchaka yoga is definitely a good thing. It, it elevates your leadership abilities, Taurus. And for Taurians who work in partnership, for example, if you, work in some kind of business where you have partners, this is going to elevate your leadership. So that's all the really positive effects of this Ruchaka yoga. However, Mars as the warrior planet is not at his best when he is in this 7th house of partnerships, right? Because partnerships tend to do better with diplomacy rather than warfare. And Mars also is conjunct here with Mercury. So this is a balancing act for you, Taurus, when it comes down to your partnerships. And they could be your romantic or marital partnerships. They could be your business partnerships. In one respect, your leadership is definitely supercharged here with this Ruchaka Yoga. However, you don't overuse your superpowers for leadership, Taurus. So avoid impulsive communication, especially with partners. Again, whether romantic or business. You can see you've got the warrior planet with the communicator planet. The saving grace here is they are both in Anuradha nakshatra. Anuradha is ruled by Saturn, and Saturn is a very slow-moving, deliberate planet. So Taurus, when it comes to expressing your leadership abilities in your partnerships, whether they are business or personal partnerships, take a long view in how you are expressing yourself and avoid anything that's too impulsive or aggressive. You may have that temptation to communicate or express yourself or set boundaries in a impulsive or aggressive way. Just really lean into Saturn's lessons of taking it slowly, take the long view, especially with regard to these 7th house karakas, which are your mate, your business partners, those sorts of things. Now, with the full moon itself, this is only a day or two, that the moon is here in your 12th house. But this full moon, Taurus, could feel pretty deep and heavy for you. This full moon in the 12th house, if you do any kind of spiritual full moon practice, prayer, spiritual practice, meditation, this full moon in Aries in your 12th house, it could really invite you to go deep into your spirituality if you do any type of full moon practices. So now let's get a quick look at Jupiter exalted in your 3rd house, and then we'll get into this 6th house activation you've got going on. So first of all, what is 3rd house? That is your self-expression. It's the lower mind, which is your day-to-day communications. And it also has to do with your neighbors, your siblings, especially younger siblings. Jupiter is quite happy. He's exalted in Cancer. Jupiter brings great results in Cancer. That's a great sign for him. So, your relationships with your neighbors and your siblings, especially your younger siblings, that gets a boost from benefic Jupiter exalted in your 3rd house. You may find that your day-to-day communications with people also just have a good vibe there, an expansive, good vibe. And hopefully that can help with this 7th house activation with Mars and Mercury in your 7th house. You will get some help in your day-to-day communications from having Jupiter in your 3rd house. The other thing is you may find that you're busy, right? 3rd house also has to do with running errands, short journeys, not necessarily long journeys, long distance travel, but just your short travels around your own city, your own state. You may find that you're quite busy with communication, self-expression, travel. But again, this is a positive activation, so this is quite a nice placement for you. And now let's get into this 6th house activation. This is kind of complex, Taurus. First of all, your Lagna Lord Venus is in domicile. So in that respect, November is a nice month for you, Taurus. Your Lagna Lord Venus is at home in her sign of Libra. She is very happy there. Now, the thing is, Libra does not particularly, Venus, she's happy in Libra, but she is not particularly happy in the sixth house. It's a kind of the same thing. Mars is not, Mars is the warrior, so he's not that happy being in the house of partnership. Venus is the lover, so she is not that happy being in the house of enemies and the daily grind. So, Venus wants to enjoy life, and the sixth house is very much, work, service, your daily grind. Now, with Sun here, this is really going to put your attention on your daily work. And for Taurians, if you're in any kind of position where you have to hire subordinates, you have to hire people to work for you or to help you, this is a good placement, this beginning part of the month with Sun and Venus in your sixth house. It can be a good time to hire workers to help you. And on the flip side, if you are in any kind of service profession, for example, Taurians, if you are in any sort of medical profession or legal profession, this Sun in sixth house activation can be quite nice for Taurians in the medical or legal fields. And you get a career boost from Rahu in your 10th house of career. So for Taurians, medical, legal, service professions, that all does very well with the Sun in the sixth house of daily work and Rahu in the 10th house of career. The difficulty with Venus in the sixth house is sometimes you have to be really firm or, strong about setting boundaries and, especially with enemies. I hope you don't have any enemies, Taurus, but, sometimes that's a fact of life. And Venus tends to be too easygoing with her enemies. Of course, she's the planet of love and the planet of friendship. She doesn't want to have to, set boundaries or really be strong or harsh in any way. But you may find with this sixth house activation that you do, in fact, need to set boundaries with people. And, there may be, some legal proceedings, or it could be work-related, legal-related, or, related to partnerships. So if you find that you need to set some boundaries or maybe even, have some confrontations, you're balancing a lot of complex energies. So really go slow, lean into the power that's available to you of Venus being in Libra. There's some charisma there, so that if you do find yourself in any difficult negotiations, Taurus, you will have a charisma factor. And again, taking some of Saturn's lessons to take a long view, go slow, don't let anyone rush you, which I know, Taurus, you're not going to let anyone rush you anyway because you're a Taurus. But anyway, I think you get the idea. Okay, Taurus, now let's look at the new moon chart for November 19th and see how the latter part of the month shapes up for you. Okay, Taurus, we are looking at the new moon chart for November 19th, and as you can see, you have a whole lot of seventh house activation in this latter part of November. So Sun moved over here into Scorpio, I think November 17th. So with Sun in your seventh house, Taurus, this is definitely putting your focus on relationships. And for Taurians who are looking for love, the new moon is a time, if you do any new moon spiritual practices or meditation, the new moon is a time where you plant the seeds that you wish to see grow over the next 2 weeks and beyond. So for Taurians who are looking for love, you want to manifest a romantic relationship in your life, this new moon does support that type of meditation. But then just generally speaking, Taurus, your focus is going to be on relationships, and they could be romantic partnerships, marital partnerships, but they also could very well be business partnerships, because we do see this Rahu activating your career house, and Venus continues to activate your daily work house. And Jupiter also activating your, your third house of motivation, self-expression, communication. Now, one thing that you're going to notice right off the bat, Taurus, is Jupiter has gone retrograde, Mercury is retrograde, and Saturn is retrograde. So with 3 retrograde planets, now is not the best time to start new ventures, especially if they're, financial business ventures, that type of thing. You really probably want to wait until December, when at least Mercury will go out of retrograde. Just starting new ventures with 3 planets in retrograde, not the best idea. On the other hand, Jupiter is so benefic, and he's so happy being exalted in Cancer. This Jupiter retrograde may bring you some second chances on things. So this Jupiter retrograde in the 3rd house can still work for you. It can still have some really positive outcomes, giving you some second chances to express yourself. Or, if you've had difficulties with your relations with neighbors or siblings, this retrograde Jupiter may bring you some opportunity to set things right. So, benefic Jupiter over your house of siblings and neighbors. If at all there have been any conflicts or difficulties there, you may be able to set things right, especially if, a recurring conflict from the past comes up. This can very much give you an opportunity to, this time settle it in a more loving, fair, benefic direction. Now, going back to this 7th house activation, again, some of this holds what we were talking about. There's a lot of energy in your 7th house with having both Sun and Mars there. This can work for you if you're looking for love, looking for romantic connection. This can definitely bring energy into that search for a romantic connection. But be very mindful about being too much pitta energy, too much fiery pitta energy. Now, for Taurians, if you're in a sexual relationship, Mars in Scorpio in the 7th house, definitely sexual passions can be ignited here, and, really enjoy some sexuality and some sexual passions. But again, keep in mind, sexual passions are not long-term romantic true love either. So this is, this Mars in Scorpio in the 7th house, it can definitely be quite nice for arousing the sexual passions. But when it comes to the more delicate expressions of deep love, you are going to want to lean into your natural charm from Venus, and be mindful to be gentle, and when it comes to communication about love. And also, to a lesser extent with business partnerships, You may have like a lot of motivation with Mars here. You know, maybe you want to shake up your business partnership, restructure it in some way. And that could be a really good thing. Maybe it's a long time coming and it's a good thing. But again, tread carefully with Mercury in retrograde, and just knowing that Mars can be a little bit impulsive and aggressive. You definitely want to keep a check on that. We've talked about this, you know, K2 activation in the 4th house. Some Taurians will find themselves actually moving, changing their residence in their 4th house. Others may simply find that they're rearranging their house in some way. And again, a really great remedy for K2 in the 4th house is to set up some kind of altar or spiritual space or puja room, something along those lines in your home. If you don't already have spiritually dedicated space in your home, K2 in 4th house supports that. That's a really good remedy for 4th house K2. And again, with K2 in your 4th house also rules mother. With K2 in your 4th and Mars together with retrograde Mercury in your 7th, definitely if there's any conflicts or difficulties with your mom, just, you know, stay cool, Taurus, be loving, stay cool. You know, that may come up, and just be loving and stay cool about it. And then just briefly touching upon Saturn continues this retrograde in your 11th house. So this may add both limitations, but also some do-over opportunities. Bear with me here. Benefic Jupiter is aspecting both your 7th house of relationships and your 11th house of older siblings, networks, and gains from your own efforts. So this Saturn in 11th house has been a mixed bag, right, Taurus? It's maybe putting some limitations on your income, and your gains may not have been quite what you wanted them to be. You know, Rahu in the 10th house would have given you some real ambition in those directions, and, you know, Saturn may be slowing that down. And you may have been experiencing a feeling of limitation or even a feeling of burden when it comes to your broader social networks or your older siblings. With Jupiter casting this benefic drishti, that's going to alleviate some of these Saturn difficulties, and it may even work in your favor where you get some kind of do-over with regard to your networks or your older siblings, some opportunity maybe that didn't work out in the past. It's going to come back around, and it does work out this time. Or again, if there were past issues that were, you know, difficulties or conflicts, you may, with this benefic aspect from retrograde Jupiter, you may find that you get a second chance to set things right. Now, this is pretty complex with Saturn in the 11th house of social networks and all of this activation in your partnership house. So all I can say about this is you're definitely going to have, Taurus, a lot of focus on the people in your life, your partners, your networks, and you really want to balance the energy and leadership that you bring into that. That's quite positive. And then also, as mentioned, if you do find that you need to set boundaries in partnerships, you definitely have some support to do that. Just be mindful to do it in a loving way and keep an eye on the long view and avoid any impulsive short term. Keep an eye on the long view. Okay, Taurus, so that is your horoscope for November 2025. If you enjoyed this video, please do like and subscribe. This is a small channel and it really helps it grow. Wishing you the very best of peace, prosperity, good health, and happiness for November 2025. Namaste.